Hey folks, welcome to Ghost Cat Cooks. This is our second episode. Today we're doing potatoes au gratin from scratch. I have milk on the stove here getting hot, trying to scald it. So we'll explain that in a little bit, but I want to show you the ingredients. Not shown here is white flour we use to make some roux and some butter. We'll also put a little diced onion in there just for a little more depth of flavor. So to make the cheese sauce from the bechamel, we'll use cheddar cheese. I use Sharp. I also like Velveeta cheese. I know a lot of people don't like Velveeta or American cheese. So if you don't want to use this, you don't have to. It just melts easy. It gives a good depth of flavor. But you can use some Sharp cheddar, mild cheddar, Colby Jack or Cheddar Jack. Those both work great. So you have a variety of regular cheeses if you don't want to use the processed stuff. And potatoes, for potatoes au gratin, is like the most important thing. So today we're using Red Bliss. For, one reason is this was all they had at the grocery store, which was kind of a sad event. Other than the 5-pound bags, I didn't need that many. But you can use any kind of potato. Red Bliss will give it a more sweet, a little creamier texture. Originally I was looking for Yukon Gold, because those stand up a little better, they're firmer. But traditionally they just use the brown Idaho russet potatoes, and those work fine too. So it's basically whatever you want to do. I'll leave a little skin on there so it gives some color in the dish. And then I guess I don't have green onions out. I'll put some of those in there just to give it a little more color and something more interesting. So we're scalding the milk, and we're getting to a point now where I think we're doing it. Let me get this camera off. Oops, didn't need to see my hand that close. So what we're doing here is you can kind of see the surface of the milk with the reflection there. And what we're looking at here is those little shimmers. You see how the texture of the milk isn't just a smooth thing right now. It's got a little texture. There's some little bubbles coming up. You can see them there in the reflection. So that's what you look for when the surface of the milk is just starting to get affected and look like it might start boiling. So that's scalded. So what we'll do is just take it off the heat and turn the stove off so that can cool down. But we'll let the milk cool down. What scalding does, you bring it up just below a simmer, which is below a boil. So I forget the amount of degrees. But what we're doing is heating it up so when we make the sauce, it doesn't break the sauce. Separate it out. In cooking, we call that breaking. So, with the milk scalded, we'll start making the roux and all that, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I think I got everything kind of set up. I guess we'll find out soon enough. So to make roux, it's basically just a fat and flour, and you use that to thicken up different things. So today we're using butter. So we'll put that in the pot, turn it up to relatively high heat, and get it melting. So while that's melting, I also want to put just a touch of diced onion in there, like I said, to add some depth of flavor. So out of this half onion, I'll just take, let's do 2 slices. And dice them up kind of fine. So, if we were making something where you didn't want this chunky in there, you can either put this in a cheesecloth and then take it out, or you can just strain it through a cheesecloth or a metal strainer. So there's a lot of options. You can also put other stuff in there if you feel like it. A little bit of garlic is good, just a touch. But since we're making this into a cheese sauce, I figured onion should be okay. So we'll wait for the butter to finish melting. I'll be right back. Okay, so as you hear, the butter's kind of melted and the water part is boiling off here. So we'll wait for that to get down a little bit. And then I'll add the flour. I don't, I'm making a little more than I need, so I'm not too worried about the amount of flour and the amount of butter. But if you see here how it's kind of clumpy, getting the light there, that's a little too dry. So what I'm going to do is just add a little olive oil to get some more fat in there to thin it out. And this is part of the method of cooking. If something's too dry, you add more liquid. Something's too loose, you add more dry. I'm going to put a little more olive oil. Okay, so see here, it looks a little better. It's not so crumbly. So what we'll do is kind of stir this around, cook some of that doughiness out of the flour. I'm going to put these onions in here because we want them to get nice and sweet. As they cook, the acids turns to sugar, so they'll get a little sweeter. But onions are optional. You don't need to do it. So I'll just cook this for 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, so we got this cooked. I cooked it for another 3.5 minutes according to the clock, and it looks like it's doing pretty good. The onions that are added in there are now sweated down, so they're translucent and mostly cooked. Gets a lot of that acid out there, so we don't have to worry about our sauce later. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of take this out of the pot and stick it in the ramekin. So this pot here, I'll wipe off the stuff on the outside, but I'm just going to use it, because we need the roux in there anyway. So I'm taking the pot, I'm pouring the scalded milk in there, and this is good. You'll see what I'm talking about. This little skin right here that comes off the surface of that milk, that's exactly what you want. It looks kind of gross, but that skin on the milk is what you look for, and that's those bubbles that were first starting that I showed you. So if you get that skin on there, then you scalded it properly. Now I got the milk in the pot with the residual roux, and then this is a whip. There's a couple different types of whips. The one I have, this is called a ball whip because the ball's on the end, but I like these. They also have the ones with just the hoops. Those are the more popular ones that everybody's seen before. So we're going to thicken this up here. So what I do is, the milk's already fairly warm. So I'm just going to take a nice glop of the roux and put it in there. Use the whip to break it up and swirl it around. As this gets up to temperature a little more, it'll start thickening up. I'm going to put another glop in there. If you're not used to this, put little glops in and let it thicken up fully in between, so you don't get too thick. But as you see, I'm really kind of stirring it well. That keeps it from sticking. As it thickens up and all, it'll want to stick a little more. But we can start seeing a little viscosity to it. See how it's coating the spoon? we're still a little thin. So since we're still a little thin, add another little glop. And, you know, I'm assuming that's the technical term. Okay, so now we have it nice coating on the spoon. See, it's got a little body to it. So I think that's a good thickness. So we'll put the rest of the roux aside. We can stick that in the fridge. It'll be good for, I don't know, a week or two. So this, I'm just going to let it simmer out. You have to let roux sauces cook a little bit to get some of that doughy flour flavor out of it. So we'll just turn the temperature down to low. It's starting to boil a little bit, so just make sure it doesn't get too hot, not be too aggressive with it. And I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Okay, so I cooked the bechamel sauce for, I don't know, another 5 or 6 minutes according to the clock. I just wanted to give it a good good cook, good little simmer. It wasn't bubbling too much, just a little. So we'll take that, we'll keep it on the heat. So adding cheese. You know, if you have a chunk of cheese, you'll want to shred it or finely dice it. This thing is not behaving very well. So what I got is the finely shredded, you know, because that melts the fastest. It's the easiest. So I'm just going to kind of pinch off, you know, maybe half of this. If this is all the cheese you're using, maybe you want to use 1.5 of these, or, you know, you taste it as it goes along. But I'm going to put in about half of it. And as you see, it's still on the heat. I'm stirring this in as I pour it. And then, you know, don't get it too hot because it will break. So I think I'm done with the heat right now. Turned off the stove. So, and you see how it's a nice thick consistency. It's starting to turn yellow from the cheese. I will grab a spoon and just give it a little taste, see if the flavor's coming out. So yeah, I think it needs a couple shakes of black pepper, a couple shakes of salt, because I hadn't put any of that in there. Stir it up. Give it another little taste, see how that helped. Okay, that livened it up quite a bit. So if I was just using that cheese, I would add the rest of that bag. But like I said, the Velveeta to me is adds a nice depth. So give me a second to get this open up. There's the stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut about half this off and throw that whole thing in there. Since it's a, you know, processed cheese and it melts really well, I just threw the whole brick in there, or the whole piece that I cut off the brick. And we'll put the rest of this back in the fridge to save it for another day. But so anyway, what we're doing is we're just kind of breaking this up with the whip and moving it around and getting it to melt nice and evenly. So let me work on that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're melted in there. As you can see, it's got quite a thick consistency. I did add a little bit of water in there because it got a little too thick. But if you can see how it's behaving here, that's our cheese sauce. So I put the cheese sauce on the cold burner back here to cool down a little. I am going to chop up some of these green onions real quick. I showed you how to hold a knife the other day, last week, on the tomato salad video. Always hold the blade, but be careful because knives are sharp. So I just put some raw green onion in there just to give it more color and make it a little more interesting. Once it's all put together, it'll have these little green dots throughout the casserole. So you can see how may's in there. So we'll keep that aside. I will get this cleaned up and get prepared for the next step. So while the cheese sauce is over here cooling, it doesn't have to get cold, it's easier to work with if it's not boiling hot. I also set the oven to 350 degrees and got out the pan or the dish that we're going to make it in. And I also forgot to tell you, we're putting breadcrumbs on top. These are the ones I'm using. So those will go on last. So the red potatoes. I like leaving a little bit of the skins on, but I find if you leave it all, it's a little too much. So what I do is just kind of take the paring knife. See how I'm holding it up by the blade, going really nice and easy. And what I'll do is I'll just cut a little thing like that around there and then score it on these sides to cut through. That way, when you go and you chop it or slice it, you have some red on there, but it's not as much as others. See, this one you'll have some off, and then the pieces. The reason why I scored them is so the long strip isn't so long, so as it cooks, the skin will come off, and if they're long, then they kind of hang off the spoon and look all weird. So that's just to break them up a little bit. Oops. And as you see, I'm holding the blade. I got my fingers curled in. So that's what they all need to look like. We'll put them in a big bowl. I'll get the rest of these done, and then I'll be back. Now we have the potatoes sliced. See, they're kind of thin, so they cook relatively quick. And then we kind of judged how much we'll need, kind of give it a good guesstimate. So next, we have this wonderful cheese sauce. We'll put a fair amount of this in here, and we will mix that up. Let's get this ball whip out. So you see how I'm kind of going down the sides, bringing it in. We're getting everybody covered here. I'm going to put a little more of the sauce. Looks like I made pretty close to the correct amount. Okay, so you can see there's a fair amount of sauce, because that's kind of what it's all about, is the potatoes with the cheese sauce. So, very simple here. put it in here, kind of spread it out. Try to fill up all the air bubbles as you're laying this in. And looks like perfect timing, because that's my oven saying that it's ready up to heat. Okay, so kind of getting all that situated. You know, these little splooges that come on the side, I'll just wipe that off. And this is how I kind of pack it in there. That'll help settle it in. However you want to do it. But we're trying to get it all down in there. One nice contiguous layer. No major air bubbles or voids. Okay, so pushing it all down in there nice. And again, let's do it with a paper towel this time. Go around, get anything on the edge here wiped off, because that'll end up burning, you know, by the time this is done. It sits in the oven quite a while. So then, progressive breadcrumbs. A lot of people like to coat these in melted butter. I don't, just because I don't think I need the extra fat. So I'm just kind of sprinkling it on here straight from the container. If you need to, you know, do it with your fingers and take pinches and all, you can do that. Use a spoon if you want to do that. Okay, so, and then this, I'm just kind of shaking it around, making sure that everything's good, pounding it down, and that's ready to go in the oven. So as you see, I got it set at 350. We heard the alarm go off. And put it on the middle rack. You know, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a piece of aluminum foil in case this boils over. Okay, much better. Now I feel safe. So we'll leave this in here at, like I said, 350. We'll leave it in there for, I don't know, at least an hour to begin with. And then I'll be back with you and we'll see what's going on. So as you see, you need to kind of keep an eye on this every once in a while. And when it starts boiling over like this is why we get the air bubbles out. Because those tend to make this worse. But what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting some air holes in here, breaking it up a little bit to release the pressure. But you know, that's all kind of normal. Nothing too much to worry about. You know, I just happen to think if this starts happening and you think that it's necessary, we can always reduce the temperature of the oven, because if you can see, we're kind of browning, right? So we're progressing very well. So, you know, we could always reduce the heat and then increase the time. But for right now, we'll just see how it goes. So as you see, it's bubbling over quite a bit. We're starting to brown on top. That's what au gratin actually means, is browned on top. So I turned the oven down to 300. You can actually go down to 275. It was just boiling too much and was boiling over too much. So I made the decision to go ahead and do that. Got it down to 300 now. So I put in a ham with a can of pineapple on top. It's a sliced Cure 81 cherry wood. So we're going to have that and a bag of salad from the grocery store. French Blue, Fresh Express is the brand. but that's what we're having for dinner tonight. So I'm just gonna let these potatoes finish cooking in there. This is how you test them, by the way. Got my knife, or you can use a toothpick, and you just go in and you can kind of feel how cooked the potatoes are. You know, in the center is the best place to try it. And they're soft. They're not completely soft, you know, as soft as I like them, but they have to stay in here until the ham's done. So they can just sit and finish baking, and then I'll show you the finished product when we pull it out. So this is the casserole when it came out of the oven, the potatoes au gratin. And as you can see, it's browned on top very nicely. It's a little, you know, overflowing and all. I turned on the big light overhead, so maybe got a little better light. So, you know, this is kind of messy looking and gross. If you're just serving in the kitchen, you know, don't worry about how the container looks. But if you're gonna serve it on the table out of this dish, then let me show you kind of what to do. Okay, so I transferred it from here over. Underneath here is a ceramic tile, you can see, so we're not right on the wood. But take a little knife and kind of just go and, you know, cut off the edges, or, you know, whatever looks messy to you. Slide it in like that, like you saw me do there. Scrape it up off the sides. This, you know, same thing. Just that brown part might be nice. Little toasty flavor. So anyway, I'm just kind of shaving all this off here, and you know, getting the big stuff off. And then what I have is a wet towel. So you know, I wet the corner of it here. I'll hold the other edge here with the dry towel, and then you can kind of, you know, clean up the edges here, come around. That is a little warm. Go down the sides here, you know. Just do the best you can. And, you know, if you got something a little stubborn, then come back, get the little scraper. See that got stuff down the side there. Keep trying to grab it without the towel. Duh. Okay, so we get it all cleaned up and looking presentable. You know, if you need to do a better job, go right ahead. But in the essence of making the video smooth, I'll stop there. So let's get rid of this foil underneath. These little handles have cooled enough to touch. So ideally we would let this cool a little more, and then try to get some of this out. But what I'm going to do is kind of try this first. It's always hard getting this first cut out. So we'll make like that action. Go in here with the spoon. Try to get some of that top. So, well, that didn't come out that well. I was trying to get some of this gratin on the top. But anyway, you get the idea. And it's kind of a little loose. If I let it sit a little longer, it'll firm up, become more of a casserole. You don't want it too firm and dry. But thank you for watching. We're having this, like I said, with the ham. That's got a couple more minutes in the oven. And the bag of salad, French Blue is the flavor, by Fresh Express. We get it at Publix. But thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you like this content, please come back for more every week. Like and subscribe, and you'll get notifications. So once again, thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. Ghost Cat Cooks.